This documentary, The Bible Volume 1, A Book of Fact and Prophecy, VHS version, created in around 1992, so it's very, very old, wasn't an intentional copyright or copyright breach, etc. When your copyright is older than 50 years, there's all this information that it's no longer valid, etc. unless they renew it. So yeah, again, there was no copyright breach intention or infringement. It was just to bring this information to people to educate them on what the Jehovah's Witness Tract Society of Pennsylvania claim in regards to the biblical scriptures. This is titled The Bible Volume 1, A Book of Fact and Prophecy, VHS, found in public access, public domain online, by Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania, publication date around about 1992. And it's asked, is the Bible accurate and reliable? How was it produced? Can it help us face the problem of modern life? These questions and others are answered in the 3-volume set of videotapes, of which this is the first volume. Locations in the Bible lands are visited, and scores of artifacts from museums in Europe and the Middle East are examined. Fascinating insights from archaeology are presented simply and clearly. The first program, The Bible, Accurate History, Reliable Prophecy, looks at the world in which the Bible was produced. Empires that loom large in Bible history are examined. What kind of people were the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and others of Bible times, or biblical times? Is the Bible's portrayal of them fair and accurate? Were its prophecies about them? Judge for yourself as you examine actual documents that these ancient peoples wrote and monuments that they erected to claim a place in history. You will find the evidence compelling. This video will help you to appreciate the Bible as never before. Music in the background is included in the video, so we shouldn't get any copyright breach unfairly.
The pyramids have been silent witnesses to the sun's rising for over 3,500 years. The Colosseum in Rome stands empty. Some 1,900 years ago, it resounded to crowds cheering gladiators in combat. A wall carving, a clay cylinder, an ancient warrior. Why should artifacts and ruins interest us today? Relics of the past are closely tied to a book that claims divine origin.
It's quite choppy because it's obviously an old documentary, VHS video, so it ages over time, right? The checking can get affected.
God began to write the Bible some 3,500 years ago. It is actually a collection of books that gives us prophecy, history written in advance. But is it reliable? And how can it help us today? To answer, let's examine some prophetic statements found in the Bible. For example, 2,600 years ago, the Bible writer Daniel saw in a dream the rise and fall of 5 world powers, 4 of them before they even existed. These world powers would have a direct impact on God's people down to our day. But how did Daniel and other prophets get their information? The Bible answers at Daniel 2:28.
There exists a God in the heavens who is a revealer of secrets.
The source of the Bible's reliable information is its author, Jehovah God. Archaeological discoveries demonstrate the reliability of Bible prophecy and the accuracy of Bible history. To verify this, let's consider the march of some world powers. What was the first world power that ruled over God's people, the Israelites? Egypt, referred to more than 700 times in the Bible. Does the Bible paint an accurate picture of ancient Egypt? 2 Chronicles 12:2 states,
It came about in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, the king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem.
What does history establish? The Egyptians were mighty warriors, and they left records of their military campaigns. An inscription in the temple at Karnak, Egypt, lists the cities that Egyptian pharaoh Shishak captured in Israel. As the Bible indicated, the Egyptians were truly a mighty military power. The Nile, the earth's longest river, has always been Egypt's lifeline. The Bible books of Genesis and Exodus accurately describe the Nile as Egypt's main source of food and water. The book of Numbers says that the Israelites, wandering in the desert, longed for the variety of food they left behind in Egypt. Paintings in tombs show life in ancient Egypt just as the Bible's first writer Moses described it. A country abounding in food.
Well, apparently Moses didn't actually write anything. It's attributed to Moses. The Jews have a tradition that they have to put a name to their scrolls, to the writings. So they chose Moses, because it was traditional. They admit that he wasn't the writer of the 5 books of the Bible, the Torah. Perhaps somebody else was. Perhaps Aaron was, or someone else, like a descendant of Moses or Aaron. So again, remember, it's attributed to Moses. Because how can Moses die and then write that he died when he's dead? Think about that.
How did the Egyptian religion differ from that of the Israelites? The rulers were viewed as gods. Thus, haughty Pharaoh disdained the Israelite god Jehovah.
Who is Jehovah, so that I should obey his voice? I do not know Jehovah at all.
Pharaoh was not the only god the Egyptians worshipped. The names of 740 other gods were found in the tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose III. Many of their gods had human bodies and animal heads.
Which was actually symbolic. Okay, they admired the hippo that constantly swam in the Nile because it gave birth to new life. See, these Europeans, these Christians, etc., jump and say, "Oh, the pagans, they worship this cow god or this, whatever," right? But they don't know the true history behind it. Us, those who have studied the ancient Egyptian or Kemetic religion and the culture, etc., like Dr. Henry, I just forgot his last name, and Dr. John Clark. Yeah. You'll find them on YouTube, where they actually went to Egypt and they explained to a European what was actually written. The military power, whoever carved it up there, the story, may have exaggerated it because they don't want their enemies or friends or whatever to think, oh, they were beaten by a small bunch of goat herders or shepherds. You know, this mighty nation gets defeated by a bunch of those guys. So they probably exaggerated it, changed it a bit, you know, here and there to look good. And yeah, there's so many different animal, human deities that have like different meanings behind them, right? What they symbolise. Like apparently the was it Horus or whoever had the falcon head, etc., etc. There was an explanation behind that. Anubis with the dog head, etc., etc. So a lot of those Egyptian Kemetic followers today, as you see on Sarnetta TV, they'll tell you they venerated them. Either it's an excuse or it's actual fact, right? They may have praised the sun, not necessarily the sun S-U-N, not necessarily worshipping it, but recognising that, hey, it gives us warmth, daylight, it produces vegetables, etc., that we can grow and then store in our barns or the pyramids, etc. Okay. They may have set these kings or these pharaohs. Pharaohs actually means house of, right? So when you say Pharaoh Ramses, it's the house of Ramses. So it's better to refer to them as kings of Egypt. Okay, they had this honour. Okay? Everybody like looked up to them, so they treated them as if they were divine, etc., etc. It's like the Mesopotamians, who had the winged bulls, right? Christians and that said to translate Victor N. Alexander, oh, that's the devil. They said about it, that's the devil, that's Satan, all that sort of stuff. But they didn't understand the history behind it. They were symbolic of the cherubim or seraphim or whatever that guarded the palace, right? Well, that sort of stuff. There's a history behind it, but people don't bother to do the personal research and actually check it out. Okay, they believe what they're told. You know, someone tells them a complete lie. Because it seems to be in the Bible, it must be true. Okay, they're all evil and all this sort of stuff. They did this, they did that. It's easier to just go with that than actually go out and study it for yourself and find the real truth behind it all, right?
It is easy to understand why Jehovah banned the use of images in worship, as stated in Deuteronomy 4:16 through 19.
That you may not act ruinously and make for yourselves a carved image, the form of any symbol, the representation of any beast that is in the earth, any winged bird that flies in the heavens, of any fish that is in the waters under the earth.
So that's what he's saying to the house of Israel when they were liberated or freed from Egyptian bondage or slavery. They're supposed to be a chosen by God to be a holy nation that he would use, and then later on, in the days of the Romans, the non-Jews, the Goyim, the foreigners, the Gentiles, they would be introduced to God, the real God, His gracious mercy, salvation, etc., so that they too could be part of the kingdom of God. They could enter the kingdom of God after they died, the resurrection, the day of judgment, all that sort of stuff, right? Okay, so they were entitled to that as well. It was for all men. It wasn't just specifically for one lot of people or one sect. Okay, so they were supposed to be pure, righteous, living God-directed lives, being that perfect example for the other nations. But they messed up here and there continuously because they didn't like to be told what to do. They didn't like the authority, someone ruling over them, so they rebelled and they did their own thing, and then obviously they were cursed because they were under the wrath of God. They went through some tribulations, etc., according to the scriptures, but then they were forgiven after 10 years, so they come back to God, and then they start doing it the unrighteous ways again, cursed again by God, and after 10 years they're forgiven, so they burn back and forth until God gets sick of it and says, right, I'm sending in the Assyrians to kick your butt, right? Scatter you everywhere, near wipe you out. And then he might have done this when they're in Babylonia or something like that. And then the Judeans were the next in line. God was going to use them, and they followed him for a while, but then they started integrating the foreigners around them, the pagan. When they went into slavery, all that sort of stuff, were into another land, were captured, taken to another land, they embraced their pagan religion, their language, their icons, images, etc. So they rebelled against God. They come under his wrath. So they're under his curse, right? They're under his wrath. So they get crap through another nation. God says, I'm going to send these people to kick your butt, and all this sort of stuff. He gives us different reasons, because you didn't listen to me, whatever. It's a lesson they had to learn. So eventually, 10 years later, or whatever, after he's forgiven them, they're all living the godly, righteous life. They realise, oh, geez, we're suffering because we turned our back on our own God, right? Our Lord and Master. So they followed him for so long, and then they went back to their unrighteousness, adultery, all that sort of stuff. So eventually God gets sick of them, right? He's had enough of them, so he sends, say, like the Assyrians to kick their butt. Yeah, it's all in the scriptures. If you just open your eyes and you look, go and find it, do the personal research, you'll see that we're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. It's actually in there. Okay, most people are reading from the modern Americanized modern English versions, which are copies of copies of copies of copies of a copy, as Bart Ehrman likes to say quite often. They're not the original manuscripts in the original ancient, long dead, no longer spoken, no longer written languages. So what they've done is they've made a modern vernacular, or a modern derivative, a modern version of that old language. Okay? This guy, Victor N. Alexander, the translator, Aramaic speaking translator from Bethnarain or Mesopotamia, Syria, when he found out he was translating from the Eastern Syriac Peshitta and the high priest of the Apostolic Church of the East, sort of, why? We don't use that, it's wrong. Okay? Because the Western missionaries came into Urmia and tried to translate the Syrian, tried to translate the King James Bible, the Bible that they had, into Syrian, but there was no grammar apparently, so they had to try to create one, and they messed everything up. So he was probably translating from that, because he was gifted it as a child. So this high priest says, well, that's actually incorrect, etc., etc. Here's a Bible style formatted version of the original manuscripts. Yeah, and so this Victor N. Alexander, Aramaic translator, he figured out a way, because that language is dead, long dead, right? It's not spoken, it's not written anymore. But he realised if you use the root words of that Syriac language, you could actually translate those words, and then he translates them into the nearest English equivalent. Yeah, he says they're very similar. The root words are very similar, so he used that method. And that's how he, after a year of depression, because he finished Matthew, Mark, and Luke or something, and the priest says, "Oh, well, it's actually wrong." So he had the year of depression because he thought, "Oh, geez, I was translating from the originals," and then this priest of the Apostolic Church of the East said, "Oh, no, you're wrong." Okay, and he finally got over it and carried on his translation project. This is from what we have read from his former website, va.com, which was downed for whatever reason. It was downed, obviously lack of payment or something like that, or somebody didn't like it, or somebody hacked it apparently. So we studied it while it was up, and it was pulled down. We found a way to, quote, resurrect it, unquote, right? And that's what we're bringing to you. Yeah, so we, communicating with this Aramaic translator through email, tried to catch him up, right, for 4 or 5 years, something like that, and we never could. Okay, no matter how much we tried. And he's a very lovely older man. Okay, had a bit of a chuckle with him now and again. Now she says, "Oh, he finds some really weird Aramaic related stuff on the internet." Giggle, giggle, right? Because at first, when we came across his website, we saw his it was origin or something. Yeah, of the Aborigines or something. It's not talking about Australian Aborigines, it's talking about indigenous peoples in ancient times. And we thought it was some young guy with a conspiracy theory. We thought, chuckle. And we actually found his email address and we were communicating with him. He says, "Hey, we found this funny thing that's claimed the theory of the Aborigines or this sort of stuff." Chuckle. And we didn't realise it was actually part of his website, right? Part of his translation project. Oh my gosh. And we started to read his translation of those, the original cuneiform, Mesopotamian cuneiform, which is 3,000 years older than the Bible, etc. Right? His translation of that. His translation of the original Tab Asherit, or Aramaic, the sacred scribe or old tongue, or language of God, the language that God spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden, etc., etc. Right? We studied all that. So, again, we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. And that's why we're called the Ministry of the Real Truth, because we present you the real truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. We are human, so sometimes we make mistakes, but somebody nicely presents it to us. "Oh, you made a mistake here." "Oh, okay, we see we put the wrong wording. Maybe we were tired or something." So we go and correct it. And we say, "Thank you very much for showing that to us. You're much appreciated." People out there can attest to that. One person said they follow us 90%, right? Because they trust what we're saying. It proves that we've proven that, we aren't trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, and the evidence that we present, and the links, the sources, the sources, the links to the sources, the established facts, the blah blah blah, whatever that we mention about or present in our videos is accurate. Okay, we're not just relying on this Victor N. Alexander. We're also looking at the Assyrian patriarchs, heads of these different dioceses or churches of the Assyrian Church of the East, listening, watching their videos, their interviews, and hearing what they have to say in English. It's very, very hard because the Assyrian people, when we asked a few of them, they said, no, we don't talk about history, it's really, really horrible, it's bad. Most Assyrians don't want to talk about it. So we keep pushing them, and they just won't do it right. Some have an attitude on Facebook, but some are helpful, right? And they've given us great comments, all that sort of stuff. It's like really hard to get these people to open up. Okay, we should go to this church, which is about 4 or 5 hours train ride away, and try to get there on time and see all these people that are actually from Iraq or Iran that are of the Assyrian Church of the East belief, church, etc. Right? These priests and whatever. We should go and see them on our day off from our employment. We should do that. The trouble is, we finish early on a Sunday morning. We'll be tired after work, so we need some sleep, right? Even though it's our days off. So sometimes it would be near impossible for us to get there. We'd be sleeping and falling asleep in the church, right? So we'd miss all the details. Anyway, we're going to get back to this because it's very interesting, from the Bible volume, Watchtower Bible and Czech Society, and their take on Egypt, etc.
And actually get seduced and bowed down to them and serve them.
Doesn't that remind you of Hinduism? The cow was a god? They bowed down to it?
The Egyptians also worshipped triads, or groups of 3 gods. They used the cross or ankh, a symbol of life. And they believed in the immortality of the soul.
So these Egyptians, these ancient Kemites, people of Tamre, whatever, or the Egyptians would have had contact with other nations, like the Phoenicians coming in with their boats and doing trade with them, and the Egyptians doing trade with them. Probably some Hittites, people around them, right? The Assyrians, maybe, Judeans, Aramaeans, people like that. So their cultures, because we have a book, this chair, not me, the timetables of history, where see if we can find it. It actually states that, see if it's on page 3. Where are we? Okay, it talks about the flood, page 3. This is called The Timetables of History, the New Third Revised Edition, a horizontal linkage of people and events by Bernard Grun, based upon Werner Stein's Culture Far Plan. 3 people attempted to translate it. They died, and someone picked it up later on and then translated it into the nearest English equivalent, right? From that old German, or from the German. Okay, it's got it here on page 3 under G, Daily Life, about the flood, Noah and the flood, disastrous floods in the Mesopotamian region between minus 4,000 to minus 3,001. Okay. And we're looking at, where's the information on writing? Earliest known numerals in Egypt. The Egyptian calendar regulated by sun and moon, 360 days, 12 months or 30 days. Earliest cities in Mesopotamia, carbon test dated. What's this? Under science, technology and growth. F. Egyptians discovered use of papyrus, potter's wheel and kilns used in Mesopotamia. Egyptians discovered use of papyrus, the papyrus reed, so they could write things on. You're going to skip the page to see the information on writing. Okay. Egyptians use, this is under B, literature and theatre, page 4. Egyptians use alphabet of 24 signs. Beginning of Semitic alphabet, minus 2000 to minus 1501, that's in the chronological timetable. First mention of Israelites in Egyptian victory hymn. Okay, looking to see what about their writing. We'll go to the next page, see if we can find it. Okay. Yeah, because their script apparently changed from right to left, similar to the Aramaeans, etc. Just trying to find that particular information. Must be all on page 3. Sumerians grow barley, bake bread, make beer. Metal coins begin to replace barley as legal tender. This is trade products, right? And then coins came along, so that was, you had to pay for your products when you traded. I'm trying to find this thing on Sumerian numerical system based on multiples of 6 and 12. Okay, so we're trying to find that information on the language, the writings that were changed. Okay, it's in here somewhere. We've highlighted it, so we just got to find the thing. And the Egyptians made beer. Regulations concerning the sale of beer in Egypt. Okay, we haven't found it yet. But yeah, basically they adopted the Aramaean script, or the other way around, because the Aramaeans etc. were looking for an easier way of writing. The cuneiform is very, very hard. You have to be like really, really clever to write it and then understand it. So they were looking for an easier way, an easier language, which they've easily found. We can't find it in here. Maybe it's further in. Egyptian hieroglyphics are adapted to Demotic script. It's under B, Literature Theatre, page 8 of the Timetables of History. In Palestine, the Aramaic language begins to replace Old Hebrew. Yeah, it's further in. We're not too sure what it exactly is. Okay, that's why, because some of the pages fell out, the ones we were looking for, out of the book. It's quite an old book. Okay, here we go. So on page 2 of the Timetables of History, Sumerian writing done on clay tablets shows about 2,000 pictographic signs. Earliest Babylonian omen tablets. It's under B, Literature Theatre, page 2. Sumerian wedge-shaped cuneiform writing, the earliest known. Sumerian poetry lamenting the death of Tammuz. Sumerian cuneiform writing reduces pictographs, still in use, to about 550. Pepe's Papyrus, Instruction to a Son, one of the earliest preserved literary documents. Here we go. The first libraries in Egypt, script changed from Sumerian style. Okay, so the writing style, the script changed from Sumerian style, horizontal left to right, to Semitic style, vertical right to left. So it would have been the Hebrew, the Israelite, right? Not the Sumerian, because the Sumerians weren't Semites. Okay, the Akkadians, the Babylonians, etc. were. Epic poetry in Babylonia celebrates the recreation of the world. In Egyptian literature, lamentations and skepticism about meaning of life. Okay, and here's some information. Settlement of Aramaean nomads from Euphrates and of Semitic Canaanite tribes in Palestine. Sargon, first king of Akkadian dynasty, defeats Lugal-Zagasi and creates a vast Semitic empire in Mesopotamia, Syria, right? Assyria, and calls himself king of the four quarters. 4 quarters means the 4 corners of the world. Right? It doesn't mean that it's flat, that it's square, because it's got corners. It's talking about the 4 points of the compass, according to Scripture in the book of Revelation, etc. Yeah, the first libraries in Egypt, script changes from Sumerian style, horizontal left to right, to Semitic style, vertical right to left. So the Egyptians were influenced by these people, and the Aramaeans, etc., by them, writing wise. So they're looking for a much easier solution than their cuneiform text, okay, which were embraced by the Akkadians and the Babylonians, and then these Assyrians, Mesopotamians, etc. Okay, so that's that. Cleared that up. So yeah, they influence each other in different ways. So that's probably why you get some things similar to what the Egyptians were doing, religious-wise. They probably influenced the Hyksos, the Hebrews, etc. Because apparently Jacob went into that land because there was a famine in Goshen. He went down there and he was surprised, shock, horror, that there was already some other people in Egypt, foreign people in Egypt, probably the Hyksos. Yeah.
What became of Egypt as a world power? God's prophet foretold its destruction at Isaiah 19:3 and 4.
They will be certain to resort to the valueless gods, and I will deliver up Egypt into the hand of a hard master.
Did this prophecy come true? A cuneiform inscription shows the Assyrian king Esarhaddon boasting of his conquest of Egypt.
I fought bloody battles against Tirhakah. 5 times I hit him with my arrow.
Thus, Egypt's vast wealth and military might could not stop the fulfillment of God's prophecy.
Yeah, because apparently the Egyptians didn't have like tin, etc., etc. They had copper shields, probably ones made of papyrus or this sort of stuff. They had these arrows, etc., that were pretty much crap. And then the Iron Age comes in, from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age. Right, these other invaders had stronger steel, iron arrows, chariots, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, they had better weaponry than them. So maybe the Egyptians adopted it. Maybe it was too late, right? They get invaded by the Assyrians, because the Assyrians were like the powerful army. You know, in those days, the Assyrian hordes, right? They came in and the city of Ramses. This is the city in memory of Ramses, right? Honouring him. They destroyed the temple, all that sort of stuff. And then apparently, according to this timetables of history, they ruled Egypt for so many years, right? Until they were overrun, maybe by the Egyptians rose up and said, hey, enough's enough. Egypt for Egypt, we're taking it back. Something along those lines. You have to do your personal research on it to find that that's accurate. Okay, so we did come across a reference here in Timetables of History, page 2, A, History Politics, at the very bottom, -2500 to -2001. 2001. Egypt ruled by the Hyksos, shepherd kings. -2200 to 1700. Kings, foreign kings, kings of foreign lands. End of Old Kingdom, beginning of Middle Kingdom, Egypt, 11th and 12th dynasties, -2100 to -1700 BCE, probably. Abraham leaves Ur in Chaldea, around 2100, and so forth. Okay, so Timetables of History is very good. It's a very good book that we came across. It gives you information on Bernard Grun and Werner Stein, who those people were. It's a very good book if you can get hold of it. In the late 1960s, a man emerged who was not only eager to tackle the task but ideally equipped to accomplish it. Bernard Grun, born in the Czech part of the old Austro-Hungarian monarchy and educated in law and philosophy at the universities of Prague and Vienna, had by then been settled in London for decades, so he got an education there, right? The English probably. An eminent musicologist, he was almost as well known as a historian with an encyclopedic talent and turn of mind. Completely bilingual in German and English, he could translate, delete, revise, and add fresh material so that a new volume would emerge that would be a pertinent and useful one for the English language reading public. Additionally, to make sure that sufficient emphasis was given to American topics, the manuscript was then turned over to an American scholar, Wallace Brockway, whose authority and experience both in history and in compiling encyclopedic works were very similar to Mr. Groon's. Sadly, after years of work on the project, both men died before the first edition of this book could be printed and published, and this was a source of deep regret to all of us. We are grateful to a number of people that helped in checking, rounding off, updating and completing what had been left unfinished, and in this connection acknowledgements are due to Helen Burrows, and that was by Peter Swed, who brought out the third edition by the looks of it, revised edition. It's a publisher's note, so yeah. It's got a foreword by Daniel J. Boston, which is very interesting. So get hold of that book. We advise it. It's a really good chronological timetable, very accurate. Yeah. Because you can refer to the information it has here in it, and then go do your research on it. Let's get back to this.
The Bible, accurate and reliable. What was the second world power in the Bible? Assyria, a cruel and ruthless nation. The founder of its capital city, Nineveh, was Nimrod, described in Genesis as a mighty hunter in opposition to Jehovah. The Assyrians loved to hunt. Ashurbanipal, known in the Bible as Asenath, hunts lions that have been captured, imported, and later released. A British museum catalogue states, the hunt itself was often more of a massacre than a contest. Animals were not their only prey. The Assyrians also hunted humans in ruthless warfare. The Bible writer Nahum refers to Nineveh as the city of bloodshed. How true that was. Soldiers played catch with human heads. Musicians entertained at a peaceful garden party held by King Ashurbanipal. But what hangs in a nearby tree? The head of Tuman, the king of Elam. Assyrian king Ashurnasirpal boasted,
many captives from among them I burn with fire.
Looking at these old plaques, are these people black? No.
Some I cut off their noses, their ears, and their fingers. Of many I put out the eyes. I made one pillar of the living and another of heads.
A soldier is rewarded for his pile of enemy heads. Because of Assyria's violence and pagan religion, Nahum warned,
Nineveh has been despoiled. A sword will cut you off. There is no relief for your catastrophe.
Assyria plundered many cities. Then in 632 BCE, Nineveh itself was destroyed. For centuries, its location was forgotten. Critics ridiculed the Bible's account of Nineveh. In 1847, an English archaeologist discovered Nineveh's ruins. His sketches depict Sennacherib's palace, the same Sennacherib named 13 times in the Bible.
Henry Lee
But
had
more
discovered
was
it.
to come. Isaiah mentions Sargon, a king of Assyria. Again, critics claimed the Bible was wrong, since there was no other proof of his existence. The Bible's accurate history was confirmed when archaeologists uncovered Sargon's 200-room palace at Korsava. He is now one of the best-known kings of Assyria.
These are these winged bull icons. Christians say it's the devil, Satan, or this other crap.
Archaeologists also found inscriptions listing Sargon's claimed conquests, including the biblical region of Samaria. The Bible tells us Sennacherib, king of Assyria, was assassinated by his sons. Ancient documents discovered by archaeologists support this biblical statement.
It's all in cuneiform. And it's been preserved for centuries and centuries,
Because of
over
Assyria's
3,000 years.
bloodshed, Jehovah decreed its destruction. His prophet foretold at Nahum 3:13.
To your enemies the gates of your land must without fail be opened. Fire will certainly devour your bars.
Did this prophecy of fiery destruction come true?
Yeah, after Ashurbanipal,
Charred markings of
It all fell
raging
apart.
fires on the walls of Sennacherib's palace verify the fulfillment of this prophecy. A Babylonian clay tablet relates the words of Nineveh's conquerors.
The great spoil of the city and temple they carried off, and turned the city into a ruined mound.
What was left of Nineveh? Two great mounds mark the site of a once proud capital. Arrogant Assyria dared to defy Jehovah God and was reduced to rubble. The next world power was revealed to Daniel. He saw four unusual creatures symbolizing kingdoms that would affect God's people. What did the lion with wings depict? The mighty Babylonian Empire. The city of Babylon was described by the prophet Isaiah as the decoration of kingdoms. A sprawling metropolis astride the river Euphrates and a center of world trade, its hanging gardens were famous as a wonder of the ancient world.
hanging
An
gardens
idea
of
of the
Babylon.
city's splendor can be seen from the reconstructed Ishtar Gate at the Museum of Western Asiatic Antiquity in Berlin. Babylon's greatest king was Nebuchadnezzar, referred to 91 times in the Bible. What was the Babylonian religion like? They worshipped the triad of the moon god Sin, the sun god Shamash, and a star symbolizing the goddess Ishtar. A model of an animal's liver was used to foretell the future. Ezekiel 21:21 says,
The king of Babylon has resorted to divination. He has looked into the liver.
How did Babylon relate to God's people? The Israelites had become disobedient to Jehovah. The prophet Jeremiah foretold captivity for them.
I shall give them into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will actually take them into exile.
True to this prophecy, Jerusalem was devastated in 607 BCE. The Babylonian Chronicle confirms the capture of Jerusalem by King Nebuchadnezzar. How long would Babylon dominate Israel? Jehovah answers, 70 years. Then what would happen to Babylon? Jeremiah predicted,
There is a devastation upon her waters, and they must be dried up. The mighty men of Babylon have ceased to fight.
Did these details in the Bible prophecy come true? The date, October 5th, 539 BCE. Daniel relates that Babylonian King Belshazzar holds a feast for 1,000 prominent guests. They praise their false gods while drinking from sacred vessels looted from Jehovah's temple 70 years earlier. Outside, Medes and Persians have diverted the waters of the Euphrates River, which ran through Babylon. The soldiers slosh up the riverbed and into the city. Before the sun rises, Babylon is overthrown, and Belshazzar is dead. Babylon's mighty empire is finished. God had spoken. The Nabonidus Chronicle describes the fall of Babylon. It happened just as Jeremiah foretold. In one night, mighty Babylon's golden glory had lost its luster. Medo-Persia marched in to become the fourth world power of Bible history. As Daniel's dream foretold, it arose to devour much flesh like a hungry bear. Although different in culture and dress, the Medes and Persians functioned as a united power. The Persians were known for their archery and horsemanship. As their empire grew, so did their taste for luxury.
And for those looking at Revelations, hey, this is probably gold or something like that, not Lebanese copper, where these Hebrew Israelites say Jesus had feet as if the dark as if finished in fire, forged in fire. Okay, the Aramaic, Galilean Aramaic Revelation says he had feet like Lebanese copper. The modern Americanized English versions say feet like brass as if forged in fire. Okay, so this is probably gold, but his feet would have been like a similar colour to that, right? Probably had a tan feet because the sun hits his feet during his lifetime, right? He's wearing sandals or walking around bare feet, whatever. Hits his arms and his hands and his face because they're probably not covered. but it doesn't make them black. Okay, because when you put brass or copper, etc., through a flame, it comes out black, perhaps other different colours. So you've got to shine it up, polish it up, and it comes out the sort of olivey colour, olivey green colour, right? We're not saying Jesus was olivey green, but it comes out with that sort of colour, the colour of Lebanese copper. This is probably gold, not actually Lebanese copper or brass.
Persian emperors built impressive palaces.
Did you see that?
The one located in Shushan is...
Up on the wall?
Persian emperors built impressive palaces.
Here. This is the Persian winged disc icon. Okay? Here's the wings here. These are like its legs or something. Okay? This is probably Zoroastrian, Persian, etc. whatever. There's a tall figure in the middle holding a ring. Okay, that's the Zoroastrian or Persian winged disc icon. The Egyptians had a similar one, but it was just basically a couple of snakes in it and wings and all that sort of stuff. So they probably influenced each other, or borrowed from some, plagiarized from another.
The one located in Shushan is where Persian king Ahasuerus made the Israelite Esther his queen.
This is supposed to be Xerxes of the 300, but on 300 he's highly exaggerated, like he's how do they put it, hermaphrodite or whatever, he's like very feminine. Yeah, total exaggeration, right?
Years before the event, Isaiah foretold the name of the Persian liberator of Israel, Cyrus.
So we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe to our channel. We may bring some more to you. Subscribe to our channel, give us a like, add your comments below, and share this with all your family, friends and others.